If you still can't fall asleep, then welcome to Sound from the Darkness. Night 2, the half face. Night is the right time for telling strange stories. My friend stretched, took off his jacket, and sat cross-legged on the floor. His place had almost no furniture, so guests sat on the floor too. He said he hated chairs, and that sitting on the ground was the true style of the ancients. I urged him, "Go on, the half-face story." He nodded. Yes, this is probably the eeriest of all the stories I know. Even narrating it makes me shiver a little. As usual, I was traveling without a plan, and I tend to choose remote places because they often come with curious tales. I used to only hear such things. This time I lived one. I reached a village, big enough to be a miniature city. Everyone had a job, forming a ring of needs, self-sufficient, and gradually cut off from the outside. They were still hospitable. When I arrived, they treated me kindly. I had studied medicine for a few years and could handle common ailments. So they made me an honored guest and soon spread word that I was a miracle doctor. He grinned. I knew he had excelled at university. Even if he disliked medicine, he was the type to master what he disliked. But not long after, the village headman invited me to his house. He was the most respected man in the village, like a clan elder, almost a little king. Friendly, but always dignified. This time he seemed humbled, as if pleading. "You are like a god. People say your art is extraordinary, and you even solved a few long tormenting illnesses. You are remarkable," he praised, until I nearly floated. I smiled. "So, someone at your place is sick?" His face tightened. He swallowed his words several times. Then, as if resolved, whispered, "My son, about your age, once an excellent young man. I don't know when it began, but he locked himself in, stays in his room all day. Only eats what we bring, refuses to see family. His mother and I are desperate. Heaven sent you. Please save him." By the end he was in tears, almost kneeling. I sensed it wasn't simple, perhaps beyond my medicine, but I agreed to go and see. His house was more imposing, still just brick and tile, larger than most, 2 stories, a fair-sized yard with poultry. From the right drifted the raw smell of farm compost, likely the latrine and vegetable patch. What unsettled me was a tall black-brown dog, over half a man's height, baring teeth and rumbling at my presence. I knew such dogs are dangerous, so I stopped until the headman drove it off. His family were kind, classic, hospitable farmers. I kept wondering what illness their son could have. He took me upstairs to a door. "Here, my boy is Juicy. He has shut himself in for a full month. I am out of options. Without you, I would have gone to find a doctor." He sounded worn. "Have you spoken with him since he shut himself off?" He shook his head. I signaled him to go downstairs. I guessed adolescent turbulence, a psychological issue, so better for the father to step away. That guess was too simple. He went down, muttering hopes that I could cure him. Watching him, I pitied him. I tapped the rough, splintery wooden door. Softer after the first hit stung my knuckles. "Juicy, are you inside?" No answer, as expected. I tried therapy. Scraps from college psych. Useless. An hour later, I grew impatient and curious about the person inside. I noticed a small, irregular hole low on the right of the door, crouched and peered in. The light was poor, but I could make out a tall figure at the bed's edge, likely Juicy, sitting like a statue, unmoving. A thought hit me. What if I shouted that I could see him? I did. "Juicy, I see you. You're sitting on the bed's edge." He reacted violently, clutching his head, rolling on the bed, crying, "Don't look for me. I've been punished." I knew this was bad. He then lay on his back, limbs spread. I called the headman to break the door. It was sturdy. We forced it open with effort. Inside, the headman stared at the young man on the bed and said something that stunned me. This isn't my son." I looked from him to the man on the bed. The fellow's skin was dark, broad-browed, with a hooked nose. Thick lips, sprouting a few stiff bristles, like pork belly, not quite singed clean. He indeed looked nothing like Juicy. "This is Xiao Liu, Juicy's close friend," the headman added. Staring at Xiao Liu's face, I felt something was wrong, but couldn't place it. Later, I knew I could have, if I had looked harder. Xiao Liu soon came to, terrified, holding his right cheek, refusing to speak. He clearly knew where Juicy was, but he was too unstable to question. We left him to rest and went downstairs. I asked, "Where does Xiao Liu live, and what kind of person is he?" The headman sighed. He and Juicy grew up together, inseparable. I always disapproved. Xiao Liu loafs about, dreaming of getting rich in one leap, and keeps goading Juicy into silly preparations for fortune. Juicy foolishly tags along. Sinful, so an idler. But why was he in Juicy's room for half a month? When did you last see Juicy? How was he then? A month ago, at night. He rushed home, said his belly hurt, ran upstairs, and never came down. You're certain it was Juicy? Did you see Xiao Liu afterwards? My own son, how would I not recognize him? With the house's layout, Juicy could have slipped out later and let Xiao Liu take his place. What was he fleeing? And why did my shout throw the man into such panic? I decided to visit Xiao Liu's home. The headman led me. As expected, poor. His parents were honest farmers. I had treated his mother's leg, so they knew me. After greetings, we asked about him. They shook their heads, missing for almost a month. He often wandered, so they hadn't worried. The mother asked warily, "Has he gotten into trouble?" The headman used his prepared line, "No." Juicy asked me to check on him. They relaxed a bit. Leaving, the headman grew grimmer. I stroked my bare chin a habit. By timing, he must have been in that room those days after Juicy returned. Now, the question was where Juicy had gone. Only answer would come when Xiao Liu fully woke. He never did. Back at the headman's, we learned Xiao Liu had died suddenly, less than half a stick of incense after we left, in the same posture. He had been breathing when we went. A death changes everything. I felt out of my depth and told the headman to call the police. He shook his head. There is no police here. Then how do you handle incidents? We adjudicate together as a village, an odd village, keeping laws like King Wen's time. I told him to gather the key people and, for now, not to tell Xiao Liu's parents. Their grief would only make matters worse. I stayed alone with the body. I believed he had died unwillingly. I'm no pathologist, but I did graduate in medicine and remembered enough anatomy. I examined the corpse. No obvious external trauma. We had been gone a bit over an hour. The village wasn't big, but Xiao Liu's home and the headman's lay at opposite ends, so the walk took time. The body was still warm, but lever mortis had begun, though faint. What seized my attention was the left side of his face. It no longer matched the right at all, as if two halves of two different faces had been cut and spliced. The lever there was different too. Lever shows as early as 30 minutes after death, becomes evident at 1 to 2 hours, and progresses through stages. Hypostasis in the first 5 to 6 hours, where pressing blanches it and it returns when released and will shift if the body's position changes. Then a diffusion phase from about 8 hours to roughly 26 to 32, where pressing no longer clears it fully and it returns slowly, and relocation only partly moves it. Then a late infiltration phase, where pressing and repositioning do not change it. Elsewhere on Shaoliu, the liver fit the early phase, but on the left cheek, my thumb could not blanch it at all. That pattern appears only after the body has lain long in place. Worse, the left side liver was bright red, a color of death by freezing. Freezing in summer. I frowned and left. It had been a long time since I last handled a corpse, and discomfort crept in. Downstairs, the headman had gathered several local notables. They trusted he would not harm Zhao Liu and discussed burying him. I waited until they dispersed and asked the headman, "Is there anywhere nearby so cold it could freeze a person to death?" He blinked, thought, then said, "Yes, summers here get too hot." So we opened an ice cellar behind the hill to store ice. "Take me there." Now he led me, puzzled. We reached the ice cellar, really a basement once for vegetables. Even near it, the air was cold. He opened it at my insistence. We went in. I found what I sought by instinct, a thing but a man, to be precise, a body. Not Juicy, oddly dressed for the village, more like a city man, rather carefully. He seemed frozen to death, still curled, and he had no face. Imagine a faceless corpse. Frost had crusted what should have been a face, making it more horrific. From build, I judged a male around 30. We called others, but I did not let them carry him out. Outside he would rot rapidly. If I was right, he tied closely to Shaolu's death and Juicy's disappearance. People murmured. The headman's face turned ashen. I caught whispers that he and Juicy managed the ice cellar and held the only keys. Juicy's suspicion stood out like a louse on a monk's scalp. 2 bodies now, both unnatural deaths. I called the police, despite the headman's objections. Many agreed. On some faces I did not see duty, but schadenfreude. 2 faces in one righteous calls for justice and secret smirks. The police would take time. I had to act. The headman looked displeased. I seemed to have brought 2 strange corpses into their quiet village. A faceless body and the strange liver on Shaolu's left cheek. I thought of the right cheek of the frozen man. I strung everything together and reached an answer, but needed the headman to confirm. I fixed my eyes on him. He glanced about, dazed. I pulled him aside and asked low, "Tell me where you hid Juicy." He started. "What are you saying?" "I haven't seen my son in over a month. Shaoliu didn't stay in that room by choice. Perhaps you locked him there. When I treated his mother earlier, she mentioned his chronic throat trouble, a rasp so distinctive no one could mistake it. For the past month, did you ever hear the Juicy inside speak? Even if not, you delivered food daily. Shaoliu is very dark-skinned. Juicy likely isn't. You never suspected. Fine, I admit I'm hypothesizing. But once the police arrive, hiding will be pointless." Sweat beaded his brow. His eyes jittered. Then he said, "I did hide Juicy. I won't hand him over. He has paid his retribution. Handing him over only brings chaos. Retribution. He bowed his head and described the horror he saw a month ago. That night, after dinner, Juicy rushed in, rummaging, asking for money, saying he and Liu would be away for a while. I smelled trouble, sent his mother off, and pressed him. He has no guile. Under pressure, he confessed. He and Xiao Liu had killed someone. He choked. I patted his shoulder. He continued, they lured an outsider to buy ice. The man wanted to open an ice bar, needed ice made from our pristine water to sell to the rich. Juicy, pushed by Xiao Liu, took him into the ice cellar. The man said he would buy all of it and threatened that we must sell or he would bring people. The ice belongs to the village. Without fridges, we all rely on it to endure summer. Juicy wouldn't sell. They argued. In the scuffle, the man was shoved by Xiao Liu and smashed his face on a jagged block of ice, mangling it. He shouted, "Murder!" Juicy then struck the back of his head with ice. The man dropped silent. The two panicked and ran home to plan a hideout. Why was the corpse faceless? I don't know. Perhaps their retribution, he said, and went on. I was livid, smashed a stool over him. But he was still my son. If the village knew, he couldn't escape. I hid him, planning in a few days to seal the cellar. But then his face changed. The right cheek itched. He kept saying he was cold. Then spots broke out. Then ulcers stinking with pus. He screamed in pain. Nothing worked. After a time, the face healed, but he paused. But the right side lost all sensation, like a stroke. That half couldn't move. The eye wouldn't close. Food and drink leaked. He kept crying there were ghosts. Fearing discovery, I hid him in a dark room behind the garden near the latrine. Xiao Liu came too, said he had similar symptoms and was scared. So he sought Juicy. I hid him in Juicy's room and told people Juicy had a strange illness and refused to see anyone. You happened to arrive. I wanted to use you as a front. With a doctor present, yet not letting him see the patient, people would talk, he finished. I finished my cigarette and said slowly, the outsider froze to death. Likely Juicy and Xiao Liu only knocked him out. He could have been saved. They locked him in the ice cellar and let him freeze. As for the two boys' strange afflictions, I can't explain. In theory, I'm an atheist. Take me to Juicy. He studied me, decided to trust, and led me back. In a dark, damp back room, I saw Juicy, nearly imbecile, light-shy, with scattered eyes and a fatuous grin. A terrifying grin, because only half his face smiled. The headman wiped his eyes. Even if I must care for him all my life, I will. Suddenly, Juicy cried, "Don't hit him, Xiao Liu, don't," then collapsed and fainted. We rushed to prop him up. As we set him straight, the previously blank face flickered with a trace of a smile. It lasted an instant, but I know what I saw, the smug curl of vengeance achieved. On that half of the face, I saw the same livor as on Xiao Liu. I checked his pupils. He's dead, I said quietly. The headman wailed like a child, clutching the body, tears and snot smearing his son's face. I stepped out. A book I once read flashed in my mind. It said that if a person dying with immense malice cuts off his own face, he can take revenge. I had thought it nonsense. I did not expect it to be true. Things wrapped up quickly. The headman ceased to be headman. Juicy's and Xiao Liu's bodies were taken away. Evidence at the scene matched his account. And as I had reasoned, the frozen corpse's face had been cut off by himself. I left the village. Before going, I visited Xiaolu's parents. They did not show much grief. Perhaps I just could not see it. When they saw me off, the villagers were already planning to rebuild the ice cellar and how to sell the ice. I looked at my friend. It seemed his face also wore a strange smile. Is it really possible to cut off one's face to take revenge? I asked. Who knows, he said. Perhaps Juzi and Xiaolu only scared themselves. What they saw at the brink of death, nobody knows. Also, later during autopsy, the lever on their faces reportedly vanished. Odd, isn't it? Quite odd, I said. Sometimes crime is a flashing thought. Retribution cannot be dodged. Not necessarily, he said. Sometimes misfortune seeks you out. Like the shop girl I know who wanted nothing but whiter skin. What story is that? Only one per night, he stood and smiled. Tomorrow night. Too much and you'll have nightmares. Sleep, I'm tired of talking. He went to his room. I lay down and soon fell asleep. Perhaps day sleep brings fewer nightmares. I slept well.